Hey everyone, I'm just doing a little intro today. Thanks for joining us today as part of our Launch It Founder Finance Academy. So, this program is all about building your financial skills and money confidence as a founder. And we're doing master classes, a digital resource hub, and mentoring support as part of this program. So, as Ed mentioned, we are recording today and then we're going to upload the session on the internet later. So today's session is Help While You Build DWP Support for Self-Employment, and it's a practical session to help you understand how income support fits around building your business. And today we're joined by John from the DWP Strategic Relationship Team, and he's here to give us a breakdown of what support is available and including grants, seed funding, and how universal credit works when you're self-employed. So it's a great chance to ask questions and get clarity. So thank you, John, for being here. And I'll pass over to you now.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for the introduction, Sarah. And just to echo, really, I'm really thrilled to be here today to talk about how we support people who are following the self-employment route alongside some of the grant and funding options available as well. So what I have today is a few slides to go through. Really eager to take questions, so please do post any questions in the chat. We'll probably do the Q&A at the end if that's okay with people, but just for anything at the end we will pick up. Hopefully I can answer everything. If not, we will take it away and we will answer post session, so just to be aware of that as well. So we will get cracking. So bear with me while I get the slides ready to go. So so the masterclass today is all about help while you build DWP support for self-employment. I've already been introduced briefly, but if I just move on to the next slide, as long as it's going to let me. Sorry about this. Typical, it's just frozen. Sorry, let's move out of the way. There we go. Does it eventually? So a bit of a lag, unfortunately. So as is already introduced, my name's John. I am a relationship manager within the strategic relationship team in the Department for Work and Pensions, so quite a mouthful in itself. Fundamentally, what we're responsible for is managing large national relationships with employers, partners, and also trade associations. And one of my areas of speciality is around self-employment, and we'll talk through about some of the work I've done in that field in the next few slides. But really interested at kind of looking at how more we can support people with who are going through that self-employment journey. And like I say, just in hopefully today you'll find it interesting and then kind of insightful in terms of the support that is available for you as well. So we shall move on to the next slide. What I wanted to do is just talk to you very briefly about my career in DWP. I feel in some regards I've been a bit of a nomad. I've moved around quite a bit, but it's just to kind of put into context that journey that I've been through and where I am now. And I think this is just significant and representative of a lot of people's journeys through life and through work as well. It's good to try lots of different things. You build lots of different skill set and you take that forward in your career, whatever that career looks like in the future as well. So I started in DWP back in 2007. So I was reflecting, it's my 19th year this year, 19 years. I'm sure I don't look old enough to have worked here for 19 years. I tell myself that every day. But when I started and I came into our call centers to take new claims for benefits. So I started very much at the ground level, understanding kind of that core customer base, what their needs were and how we could support. So moving from new claims, I then moved into a part of the department called social fund. So social fund used to deliver something called crisis loans. So if people were in desperate need of money, what the department would do is they'd provide them with emergency funding through the form of loans that would actually tide them over until they next receive their payment. So I spent time working for social fund before then moving into our fraud and error teams, which was all about ensuring that people's claims were correct. And this isn't just about finding out where people have been committing fraud, but it's also finding out where errors have occurred in the claim and people were also due money, which is a really interesting role. It just kind of gave us really broad insight into kind of how the department claims processes work as well. From there, I moved into being a work coach, so working directly with our customer base. And this was helping customers move into both employment and self-employment alongside working with those customers who were furthest away from the labour market and just needed a bit of support to build certain skills, to improve confidence and just to actually support them to have stronger aspirations for themselves and lives as well. From there, I moved into learning and development. So I spent a lot of time doing a lot of learning design a lot of products for the department. And then more recently, what's happened is I moved into our strategic relationship team to work within our partnership side of the team. And it's a really exciting part of the team because it enables us to do a lot of outreach into organizations such as Launch It and speak to wonderful people as well. So again, just reiterating the really fantastic opportunity it is today to come and speak to you all. Within my current role, one of the organizations I work with, and this is a real tie to self-employment, so we're going to put this at the front end, is I work with an organization called the British Business Bank. So the British Business Bank are actually a part of the Department for Business and Trade. So they're kind of an arm's length government department as such. But in the last year, what I've done is I've worked with them to develop something called a Fresh Start Guide, which is a free guide for anybody who's considering starting up their own business. Guides them through the practicalities of starting their business, things to think about, how to overcome barriers they may be facing, whether that's confidence, financial barriers they may be facing. So it's been a really fantastic collaborative piece of work. And this was launched in around November last year. And at the end of this presentation, the slides will be available. There's links into this guide. And if you're just thinking, well, actually, it'd be great to tap into some additional free support in terms of a free guide. It's a good opportunity to kind of access that and look at what elements of that might be supportive of yourselves as well. So that was a great piece of work that took place last year, and I'm really excited, as I said, to think about how more we can support people who are considering that self-employment route as well. Now, before we dive into the main content, what I just need to do is I need to I have to put a disclaimer at the start of this session, really, just to say that the session provides general guidance only, does not replace personalized benefit advice. So really important just to kind of highlight that. Universal credit, which we will talk about, the decisions are based on individual household circumstances assessed by the department. Funding schemes, eligibility rules, support programs may change over time, so always check the latest information on gov.uk. So we'll talk about a lot of government-backed schemes today. It's really critical, and I will reiterate this later as well. We're not recommending one scheme over another scheme when we're talking about financing, but it's just to make you aware of the options available for you. And I think the really important thing at the bottom here as well is it is just a general information session today. We can't discuss personal claims calculations or case details within this session. So just to make that aware, just so it's a safe environment for everybody as well. So with that done, what I wanted to do is I wanted to tell you a little bit more about the department itself. So I don't know how much you know about the Department for Work and Pensions or Job Centre Plus. So what we've got on the screen is just a bit of information about us. So our core aim really is to help people improve their lives day to day and lead meaningful lives and sustainable financial lives as well. We're responsible for a lot of different things, but we have four primary aims. So the first thing is helping people to move into work and supporting those already in work. So this is both in employment and self-employment. We help people to plan and save for later life. So we support our customers who are claiming state pension or pension credits. We support the most vulnerable people in society. So we offer non-discriminatory services, and we will support anybody eligible to receive support through our offerings. And we're also a taxpayer-funded service. So for us, it's about ensuring that we are providing value for money in everything we do. So really, that's a core framework for what we're trying to do. We have a few interesting statistics about the department as well. So when you think about the Department for Work and Pensions, a lot of people think, that's job seekers allowance or universal credit. But, do you know, actually, we administer 17 different benefits as a department. It's absolutely humongous. We have three parts of business that we operate through the Department for Work and Pensions. So we have Job Centre Plus, which you may know about because they're on a lot of high streets. I think about 600 plus job centres across the country. We also operate retirement services, and we also operate child maintenance as well. So we have three primary arms of what we do. Really interesting kind of statistics. So around claiming benefits in the UK, 24 million people claim benefits. It's absolutely huge. It represents about 35% of the UK population. So there's going to be a lot of people claiming who are both employed and self-employed who are accessing our services for support as well. So we will support anybody who is eligible for our services. What we thought would be quite useful to do as well is have a slide in here about what universal credit is. So you may already have some awareness about universal credit as a benefits itself. So universal credit was introduced firstly in 2013. So we're actually celebrating our 13th anniversary this year. Before universal credit existed, there were even more benefits. So we're saying about 17 benefits now. It was even more in the past. And the whole point of universal credit was really to simplify the benefit system. And I think when we first started, actually, there were 30 separate benefits. So we've actually almost halved the amount of benefits that were available pre-universal credit. And it is there, as it says on the screen, really, to support people on low incomes, out of work, or unable to work. And in terms of who can claim, so it's there for UK residents aged over 18, although some 16 to 17-year-olds may qualify in certain circumstances, for example, care leavers. You have to have savings of under £16,000 and primarily be unemployed, part-time workers or self-employed, depending on your circumstance. The calculation you receive for universal credit is also always based on how much a household is receiving financially per month through earnings. So that calculation is what we go off. So just very, very basic information about universal credit. If you want to find out any more, we would say obviously gov.uk is a really fantastic source of information for anything else. And there's some fantastic benefit calculators on there. So if you think, is there an opportunity, am I eligible? There's a good opportunity just to have a look at those benefit calculators and consider that. So what I want to do now is kind of pivot into how we support people who are looking to go self-employed, or who are self-employed actually. So the department provides help to start or grow businesses. So primarily what we do is we can signpost to local organisations and government-backed support schemes, which we'll talk about a bit later. If you're newly self-employed, you may qualify for what we call the 12-month startup period. And this just means that if you are claiming universal credit, that for the first 12 months, the growth of your business is your primary focus. There's no expectation to look for any other work. You'll have a work coach assigned with you, normally a specialized work coach who deals with self-employment, who will provide you with the in-depth information and guidance to enable you to flourish in that business. So like I say, that for the first 12 months for new businesses is what's awarded to you. What happens in that first 12 months is, as your business grows on a monthly basis, all you're ever asked to do is report how much you're receiving in your earnings, whether it's £100 or £1,000, it doesn't really matter. And then your benefit is just calculated based on what you're reporting. If you have been if you've been self-employed for more than 12 months, it does work a little bit differently, but we will talk about that in the next slide. There are lots of other support strands available. So if you are starting a business, or if you're running a business with disabilities, there's something called Access to Work. And Access to Work provides grant funding for particular adaptations or equipment you might need within the workplace. It's one of our best kept secrets, I would say to you. So it's really worth just having a look at Access to Work if you have a health condition or disability, and thinking about actually what adjustments do I need that would be supportive of me to enable me to work more effectively as well. So again, gov.uk is a fantastic source of information about Access to Work. But if you're starting a business and you think, oh, I've got a health condition or disability, and to be successful in this business, I'm going to have to find like X, Y, or Z, then actually what you can say is, well, Access to Work can actually fund part of this for me. So it just takes away some of that financial pressure from what you're having to do as a startup as well, or the founder of a business. And then finally, within job centres, we have what we call self-employment work coaches. So when you report you're self-employed, you'll be allocated to have an interview with a work coach who deals specifically with self-employment. And what they'll do is have a conversation with you about your self-employment and consider whether you'll then be eligible for that 12-month startup period as well. What the work coach is there to do is review your business activity, any records you might have, business plans, marketing materials, customer lists, etc. And just to really understand how your business functions and also what support you need. So if you have been running a business for a little while and it's not necessarily going in the direction you're anticipating, then what we can do is we can then look at working with you to signpost you to additional organizations that can provide support to enable you to grow that business as well and be more sustainable in the longer term. Throughout the self-employment journey, they're there to support you. So you could have regular meetings with them. They'll have conversations and can provide information and guidance about how you can grow and kind of continue growing your business. And again, all we ever ask really is you maintain the accurate record keeping with us. So that's, like I said, making sure that on a monthly basis you're telling us about how much you're receiving. If there's any changes, you have to let us know about those as well, so we can then feed it into your claim as well. On the next slide, what I have is a bit of a visualization about how self-employment works. on universal credit. So we've kind of gone through the top line. So if you are newly self-employed, what you'll be asked to do is attend what we call a gateway interview with a work coach if you're claiming universal credit. So this is the interview where you'll have a discussion about your business. You'll provide any evidence about your business, how that's running. The work coach you then meet will then assess your eligibility for a 12-month startup period. So like I say, this is where you're going to only be able to only ask to report what you're actually earning through every single month. And then your universal credit is then adjusted. It says based on a taper. Okay, so just to say, in terms of universal credit, for anybody who is working, your universal credit is reduced by 55p for every pound you earn. So if you're earning £1,000 a month, your universal credit would be reduced by £550. If you're receiving an award of £1,000, you'd receive £450 universal credit on top of the money you're receiving from your business as well. So that's kind of how that taper works. Now, once you reach that 12-month point, or if you're an existing business that's been in operation for more than 12 months, it does work a little bit differently. So in terms of how that works, again, you'll still go and have that conversation with the work coach about what your business looks like, what support you need, and then we'll then look at how we can support you in the longer term. Again, they would then make an assessment on whether you're what we call gainfully self-employed, which is where we make an assessment about whether your business is your basically primary way of making money. It's how you're supporting yourself. It's financially viable in the longer term. Now, if you have that appointment with your work coach and they think, well, actually, for the last 10 years, you've only been receiving sort of £300 or £400 a month, and there's no real plans or there's no real view about how this might grow in the future, what we might then say is actually, for the purpose of this, we may not deem you as what we call gainfully self-employed. And if that happens, what we would then support you to do is look for additional work to top up that self-employment earnings. And in the meantime, all we'd ask you to do is continue reporting the earnings you're receiving through your self-employment on a monthly basis. If you're deemed, to be gainfully self-employed, what we would then basically say to you is, we accept this is the way you're sustaining yourself in the longer term. It's financially viable, etc. Then what we would then do is we would implement something called a minimum income floor calculation, which is basically saying to you that actually, we will base your universal credit on an assumed amount you're receiving through that self-employment on a monthly basis, and this is normally based at a minimum wage level for someone who's working kind of full time. There are caveats to that as well, so it does change a little bit, but it does work a little bit differently in terms of whether you're a new business or whether you've been existing for over 12 months. But the support for new businesses and existing business is brilliant, because like I say, you'll have a work coach assigned to you. You'll be given that ongoing support to help grow your business. You'll have sort of point of contact to enable you to be signposted to additional support if you need that, and that's additional specialist support. So it's just a really brief overview about how universal credit works. What we wanted to do now was also talk to you about financial support options available. So this is actually on the next slide. Here we go. Now, in terms of what we talked about already, in terms of what we do within the department, is we will support people who are going through that self-employment journey and continuing that self-employment journey. But in terms of finance options, what we tend to do is we tend to signpost to specialist routes for financing. What we're going to do today is we're going to highlight some government-backed schemes that are available for you as you start and grow your business. I'm going to say to you that the list we go through isn't exhaustive, and there's going to be loads of other sources of financing available. As a government department, as a department that also always looks at people not wanting to accrue debt, what we would always say to people is look at non-debt routes to start with. We know as businesses grow and develop, debt may become the only option available to help grow that in the longer term. But initially, as you're starting that business, you don't want to be weighed down with loads and loads of debt. So just be really mindful about kind of the routes you're taking and reflective about what's right for you. As I say, we're not recommending one route over another route. We just want to give you an array of options that might be available if you want to go down that route. Okay. So the first thing we wanted to talk about within this session really was a tool on the internet called the Finance and Support for Your Business tool, which is available through the Department for Business and Trade. And there's a link on the slide. Again, once you have access to the slide, you can just go into the link and have a look at it. But basically, as it says on the screen, it's a central hub to search government-backed finance and support schemes. So it's basically a directory of finance options available to you. So it includes things like loans, grants, mentoring advice, and local support programs. The tool is fantastic, really, because it provides easy access to finance available to you. It provides information about business development support. So if you're thinking, well, I've started, but what I really need now is just a bit of help to help nudge me in the right direction, then that's fantastic. It enables you to have access to sector focused funds. So if you are creating a business, potentially maybe in engineering, then within the hub you can then have a look at whether there's any specific engineering hubs or engineering grants or financing options available for you. And it also is regionally based. You can actually look at a regional basis, whether you're based in Scotland or down in London, about what's actually available for you. So it's really comprehensive, and it provides loads and loads of information. And I always reflect on this, actually, because I think this is a really strong message. We work with a lot of trade associations, and one of the trade associations we work with represents over 1 million employers. And the conversation around that self-employment with that organization was very much actually, a lot of businesses can easily get finance. A lot of people can just go and get that, go down to the bank or whatever and get a loan. But that's not the critical thing. The education is a really important thing. And I would always say to anybody kind of starting that business, the education is really important. It's about understanding your business, understanding if you're going for finance, how you're going to use that. Because ultimately you don't want to then get into any debt or take out any finance you're actually not using effectively either in terms of investing and growing your business. So I'd really, I think for me, that was a really key bit of advice that they were able to give me. And I think it's definitely worth sharing. So I would really recommend the finance and support for your business tool. And as I say, you will have the link when the slides go as well. So do have a look at it. So the next one we wanted to talk about briefly was something called angel investment. So angel investment, basically put really, is a source of financing available in the UK that involves high net worth individuals investing their own capital normally between £5,000 to £500,000 into early stage startups in exchange for equity. So what I would say to you here is think about Dragon's Den. Fundamentally, this is what angel investment is. Okay, so you're going to be pitching to investors saying, I've got this really fantastic business idea. This is what I anticipate the business is going to look like in the future. And they will then make a decision about whether that's a business that they want to invest in. Business angels are really good because alongside providing investments, what they also do is they bring things such as mentoring, advice, they bring knowledge to you, contacts, networks, and a lot of the time they're really hands-on as well. So the other thing about angel investments is a lot of the time you'll find is that the relationships are quite long-standing. So it's not like, okay, so I've invested in you today, that's the end of it. What they want to do is kind of be there to hold your hand a little bit as well. So I think research has shown that actually angel investment relationships tend to last more than 5 years. There's lots of benefits of angel investment. It enables access to capital for the business. So it doesn't provide necessarily debt into the business, but it just provides capital and income into the business. But alongside that, it provides specialist support to help grow the business as well. But like I say, angel investment, I always think about Dragon's Den, always think about Dragon's Den. So again, a really good source of finance. In the link on the bottom links you back into a page with the British Business Bank, which is all about angel investors. So I would say to you, any of the schemes or programs which we reference within these slides, please just go back and have a look at the links that are attached to here, because it's, there's a whole plethora of information available to you there as well. So that's angel investing. Now, the next one we're going to talk about is something called the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme. Very, very similar to angel investment. And when I go through this, you can think, John, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. There are slight differences. So the Seed Enterprise Investment Scheme is a government-backed initiative. Basically works in a very, very similar way to seed investment, as to angel investment, sorry. It enables you as a business to raise capital for running your business. And it funds early development. It gives you financing for market research, product development, and the person investing will also and it be there to provide you with additional support such as mentoring. Now, in terms of the way seed investment works, is that normally you'll build a relationship with the investor prior to receiving any investment, and that relationship could be up to kind of a year before investment's made, because what they really want to do is know you as a person, know how you work, really understand your business before they put their money into it. In terms of receiving seed enterprise investment, there are various eligibility criteria. So as a company, you must be UK based. You have to be trading for less than 3 years. You have to be employing less than 25 people, and you must not have assets of over £350,000. But saying that, seed enterprise investment scheme, they can invest in ideas. So it's even that pre-startup they can invest in, which is really good. And as an organization or a business starting, you can raise up to £250,000 to run that business. But obviously, it depends on the nature of the business and how you run. It isn't debt you're accruing; it's investment into that company. The key difference between the two really is the seed enterprise investment scheme is government backed. So what it does is it provides safeguards for the investors if the business doesn't succeed, basically. So if someone's invested and the business doesn't kind of go in the direction, or it fails quite early on, what will happen is that investor will receive money back through taxation and different tax reliefs available to them. So I would say it's very, very similar in the way they're run, but seed investment probably just provides more support for the investor in terms of that reassurance if things don't go to plan. On the slide here, what we have is we have a couple of links again. So we'll go through the bottom one first. So the bottom one is really just a link into how the application works for seed enterprise investment scheme. And what I would say to you is, if it's a source of income you're interested in, the key thing is having a solid business plan. Really important to have a solid business plan, because this is what the assessment primarily will be made on. It's just like, actually, what does that business plan look like? What's the aspiration for the business? What's the aims of the business? How sustainable is that business in the longer term? So really invest your time in developing that business plan. The link above that is into something called the Enterprise Investment Scheme Association. So this is a trade association. So it's a membership body that represents investors, but also founders of businesses as well. So I would really recommend having a look at their website, because what they do is they have a series of national face-to-face events, which as founders or investors you can go to find out more about the program, how it works, and also to find out whether it's the right thing for you as well. So I just really, really suggest just having a look at that. Okay, cool. So keeping things rolling, what we're going to do now is talk about startup loans. Okay, so what are startup loans? So as with previous schemes we've discussed, they're government backed loans that are available for people who are starting their own business. They're unsecured personal loans designed for early stage businesses that have been trading for less than 3 years. In terms of startup loans, they're administered through the British Business Bank, and you can receive between £500 to £25,000 as loans. But like I say, bear in mind, these are loans, so obviously they are repayable. So just be mindful about whether it's the right source of financing for you. They come with a fixed interest rate, so where where potentially you might be looking at loans with banks, the interest rates could be goodness knows what, but you are actually given a fixed level of interest at 6% with startup loans. And repayment terms tend to be between 1 to 5 years. Now, the really good thing about startup loans is, as a product, alongside actually receiving income through a loan, what the startup loans company do is also provide you with 12 months free mentoring. So you get that ongoing support as you receive that finance. And I think this takes me back to the previous point, is actually, receiving finance is all well and good. It's a really important thing, but actually having the education and the knowledge to use that financing effectively is a really critical thing. So I think that's something that's really good, that's tied into the startup loans. And the whole point of startup loans really is being designed so anyone can be a business owner regardless of background, and you get the right funding and guidance available. So let's just talk about startup loans again. On this slide, what we have is we have a link into the British Business Bank, where it talks more about the startup loans scheme and how that works. Again, it's about making the right judgment call for yourself about what finance options are available. And what we've managed to do, just to make this a bit of colourful now, so we're going to be moving into some case studies around startup loans. It gives you an idea about how people used the loans and how it supported them. So I think we've got three case studies here. So you bear with me while I just read these out. So the top left, top left, sorry, the bottom ones, sorry, they've all gone out of sequence here. So the bottom one is a lady called Rachel. So Rachel set up an organization called the Rebel Baker. So she received a £15,000 startup loan to cover equipment costs as our order book grew. The funding was crucial because the business was facing heavy cash drains and Rachel was down to a last £1,000. The loan allowed her to invest in the necessary equipment to scale production and meet demand for her allergen-free baked goods. So it enabled her to actually grow her business. And she was at a point where she took out the loan where potentially, if she hadn't kind of considered financing routes, that business may have failed due to the lack of finance within it. Now, in the top right-hand corner, you have Alex. So Alex started Awesome's Franks with the following receipt of a £25,000 startup loan. And he used that really to transform an old train station into a gourmet sandwich and deli venue. So the funding covered full redesign, new electrical rewiring, new plumbing, plastering equipment, installation of pizza ovens. And it really enabled Alex to get a unique space with a playful design for the local community as well. So thinking about the local community needs and what they wanted as well, he enabled him to use that loan effectively. Now, top left is Olivia. So Olivia founded something called Pluto Pets, and she received a startup loan of £15,000 to fund an app which provides health advice, diet guidance, and behavior tips for dog owners. Now, she'd already invested some of her own money to create prototypes, but needed the loan to complete development and launch the app on Google Play and Apple's App Store. So they've all used their money in slightly different ways, but it's enabled them to actually continue that growth of the business as well, which has been really cool to see. So just a few case studies, but on the website there are more examples about how people have been using their financing to grow their business. Now, the next slide we have is something called growth hubs. Okay, and I think this is a really important thing just to kind of let you know. So not necessarily finance specific, but every single area will have something called a growth hub. So a growth hub is a local, often publicly funded partnership that provides free and partial advice and support to help businesses start, grow and scale. So they act as a central hub connecting businesses to specialized resources, including access to finance, mentoring, guidance on areas like innovation, digital transformation and marketing. So they bring businesses together. They provide a collaboration space for businesses as well. So really, really fantastic things happen within those. And everything that happens within Growth Hubs is free. Okay, so it's free expert advice from experienced local teams. Enables you to get connections to wider UK government resources, programs and opportunities. And it helps businesses and founders to find the most relevant local and national support to support longer term business growth as well. And I think it's so good actually on this slide. It points out 1.6 million businesses received Growth Hub support in the last year. So actually, as a collaboration space, as an opportunity to grow the business you've developed, it's kind of a win-win really. It's all free. You can get specialist expert advice from the growth hubs. So I would really consider if you're kind of at the stage where you're thinking, I need a bit of more help or I want to do a bit more collaboration. On the link on this page, what you have is a link into the Business Board Network Growth Hubs, get my words out. But there's a directory where you can actually find where your local growth hub is. So I would really recommend you just taking some time to have a look at that. Because again, it's just another tool in your armory that can actually help you as you're developing your business. So we're moving towards the end of what I was going to present today. So there are some key takeaways really for us. So the first thing, we've talked about universal credit. So we talked about the fact it provides a 12-month startup period for new businesses and tailored guidance from work coaches. The rules around it vary depending on whether you're a new business or an existing business, as we've gone through, but we would always say have a look at gov.uk, do a bit of research. Obviously, research is really critical for anything, especially in business. So have a look and consider how that might work. I would always say to you, have a look at your eligibility as well. So if you're not claiming at the moment, but if you're in a situation where potentially you would be eligible for claiming, have a look at the benefit calculators on gov.uk because there's some fantastic things and it's always worth just double checking that you're not missing out on some support that you might be eligible for. If you are claiming with us and you are self-employed, all we ever ask really that you report your monthly earnings. and expenses to ensure that your universal credits reflect your real business income. So really important that we keep accurate record keeping. As we've seen, there's a range of different funding options available through startup loans, angel investments, the seed enterprise investment scheme for early stage businesses. There's lots of things available, but I think the next point is really critical on here is consider non-debt support routes first. Okay, so as you start the business, obviously receiving financing, especially loans and things, can be really tempting, but always consider that kind of longer term impact. And as we said previously, as a government department would always suggest, is go down the non-debt routes first, explore those, what they look like, and what could fit, because you could find a grant or an investor, that actually enables you to go through a non-debt route, but enables you to have that same growth you would receive if you had actually received a loan. So just be really mindful and make the right kind of choices before you do lots of research to make sure what you're doing is right. We've talked about growth hubs. They provide, as we said, mentoring, business development programs. They do all sorts of fantastic things, but it's all about ensuring and supporting you to make the business you're running successful in the longer term. And as an organization, DWP can signpost and support and connect you to trusted business organizations, tools and resources as you develop your business as well. So there's loads of different help available. On that point, what I would also say to you is if you Google gov.uk district provision tool, what you'll come to is a page on gov.uk where you can actually select self-employment, and it will go through additional organizations that can support you at a local level, because Launch It do amazing things. And I think it's just tapping into all the supports available to enable you to be successful in the longer term. Now, what we have on the next slide is just some useful links. Again, this will go out with the slides. We've gone through some of these already. So there's a link into help with moving from benefits to work, starting on your own business, which provides more information around how self-employment works when you're claiming universal credit. So just really important to kind of have a reflection and look at that. We've gone through the find the right support for your business link, and that's all about the grants, the loans, the financing options that's available. And again, I would say that's a really fantastic place to start, because there's a lot of regional based things that might be available for you. So maybe that's a great first point of call. We've talked about the Startup Loans Fresh Start Guide, kind of as a product, just to give you a really good understanding about kind of business considerations and how you can grow and scale your business. It's worth just having a look at that. And it's a completely free guide on the internet. And as we've already referenced, we have benefit calculators, loads and loads of benefit calculators. Always go for an independent benefit calculator. DWP as an organization, so the Department for Work and Pensions, do not have their own benefit calculator. So, just have a look at that link there and just make an assertion about kind of what's right for you as well, and what your eligibility might be for any type of benefits. We've talked about access to work as well. Access to work, again, if you have a health condition or disability, is really worth knowing about, because it can provide that funding to get adaptations, equipment, even things such as travel. It can support with that. So lots of fantastic things it can help you with. So on that note, I am going to be quiet for a few minutes, and I'm going to put it on for a Q&A and see if we have any questions. I will throw it back to the panel and just ask if there's anything coming through chat, or if anybody's got any questions.
Well, first, thank you so much for that, John. That was really, really insightful. I think we have one question on the chat. While we wait for the others, just feel free to type it or just raise your hand to ask. Sarah is asking how limited capacity for work and self-employment works. Would someone be restricted in how many hours they can work?
That's a really good question. That's an amazing question, Sarah. Thank you so much for asking that one. So in terms of that, under our old benefit rules, so if you were claiming something called employment support allowance, you would only be able to work a certain number of hours before it kind of impacted your claim significantly. With universal credit, it works completely differently. So although you might be given an allocation of like limited capability for work, it's not saying you're not able to work. So I would say to you, would still be able to work and scale and grow your own business. For us, it's just gives us that a reminder that you have a health condition or disability that you may need a bit of support with as you're going through that journey of growing and supporting your business. So yeah, absolutely, it shouldn't impact it at all, to be fair. But great question, great question. Okay, so what? Sorry, I just realized. So Rebecca, that's a really good question. So it's never too late. I mean, if I don't know if it's something you've spoken to your work coach about, but if not, it's something, yeah. I mean, certainly they would have a localized specialist who'd be able to have a conversation with you. So I think it's just a matter of having a conversation with your work coach and asking to be signposted. So yeah, no, that's not an issue. Credit check. So Clifford, that's a really good point. So it's a question I've asked. So I'm not sure about credit checks, but they do eligibility checks. So this is ensuring that actually it's a loan you'll be able to repay. Again, on the British Business Bank Startup Loans page, what you'll have information about their eligibility criteria and what kind of checks they undertake as well. So they do eligibility checks just to make sure it's repayable, because obviously from their point of view, they don't want to put anybody into kind of debt that they then won't be able to repay either. So just have a look. Sarah, fantastic. Yeah, no, that's brilliant about access to work, because I know it's transformational. It really is. But like I say, people just don't know about it. And for us, it's about spreading the message. And what I'll do actually for the team as well is after the session, I'll also share the link around access to work as well. I know it wasn't on the slide deck, so apologies for that. But I will include it because I think it's really, really important just to be aware of. I don't know if there's any other questions anybody's got.
John, thank you for that. It's really informative. Are there any other places that people could look at for funding their business? I know there's a lot of interest in that and how they can find out more about it and what the options are. I know you've mentioned some.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, there is a whole range of different organizations. Obviously, Google can be a best friend in trying to find things. We work with a large number of national organisations, and we'll say it's never exhaustive. So there's lots of different options for you. So British libraries have something called their BIPC provision, where they have advice and guidance around all sorts of accessing business growth support. So you can just look at the British Library BIPC page, and that will give you further information. King's Trust have an enterprise scheme for young people, which is worth having a look at. Open University have their own programs, and then the one that always kind of is a bit of reflective for me, especially linked to finance, is something called the Rebel Business School. So Rebel Business School, their kind of key message is business without debt, basically. So, and I know this has kind of been the message I've tried to get through across the go through non-debt routes. But what Rebel Business School have is they have a variety of free webinars around business financing specifically. They're normally masterclasses. So I would say have a look at the Rebel Business School website alongside any other website where you think there might be, but really, really good opportunity linked into what we've discussed today.
I think I've got 3 of those. I put the links in King's Trust, Rebel Business School, Business and IP. What was the last one?
Yeah, so it could be through Open Learn, or so
Open Learn.
I think Open Learn through the Open University would have their own products. But again, it's not exhaustive. There's literally so much available. So just research and find out what's right for you. Great question, Laura. Thank you. Sarah, fantastic question. So can DWP Job Centre help with things like equipment, e.g. laptop, if someone didn't have one? Amazing question as well. I love it. So the answer is yes. I would also caveat it with our finances are discretionary. So it's based on a local decision about what can be paid for. But absolutely, we have something called the Flexible Support Fund, which is there to support people who are claiming with us to overcome barriers they may be facing in terms of moving towards employment. So whether that's equipment or other barriers, clothing, for example, there's finances available. But I'm within this session, I can't promise anything. All I can say is there is funds, but it is discretionary. So I will just say that. So yeah, ask is all I'd probably say to you, Sarah. But again, great question.
There was a previous question from Jody. When applying for a business loan as a limited, that's right, as a limited company, I think, does the director's credit play a part when applying? Or would it be based on business finances?
That's a very good question as well. So I can answer it in terms of startup loans, because startup loans is a loan for the business. However, startup loans is a personal loan. So if you're a company director, it would be based on you rather than the business, that assessment. So other types of loans and things, I would say I'm probably not the expert on. So I would say you might have to just do a bit of research on that, unless kind of Laura or anybody else knows the answer to that one.
So with a startup loan, the answer is yes, it would be based on your credit score.
So that I think goes back to what we said previously. It's in terms of the eligibility, and there'd be eligibility criteria for startup loans. Whether that's the form of a credit check, I would say just have a look at their website as to what they actually look at. But it's a personal loan, these startup loans, rather than a business loan.
Okay, yeah.
But it's classed as a business loan, which is just confusing. But yeah, it's.
I think there was one before that as well, from Cliff. With startup loans, is there a credit check before applying?
Yeah, I think we covered that one. It was just, I think, just referring back to that one. Yeah, no, don't worry at all. I think it was just there will be eligibility criteria linked to the startup loans. In terms of what that looks like in terms of credit checks, I can't say for definite, but just have a look at their website and just see what that looks like. But there will be checks of some description, just to make sure that they're actually lending safely, which I guess is the responsibility of any finance institute to do that.
Yeah. While we wait for some more questions, we do have a few more minutes left. I will put out a quick poll, and everyone, if you can just quickly answer it. Thank you so much. Yeah. It might not show if you're on mobile, I think. So if you do, just let us know. They will send you a code where you can access and answer it.
I would say as well that if anybody does have any questions after the session, I'm so happy for them to be routed back through to myself as well. And I know my contact details aren't on the slide, but Laura, please just whack them through to me, because I think it's all well and good just having someone kind of talk to people, but then it's having a route afterwards, because I'm a reflector. I always think about things afterwards. I should have asked that, and I always forget. So please don't be a stranger is what I'll say to you. Absolutely, please don't be a stranger if you want to chat about anything.
Thanks, John. Certainly will.
Yeah, so I get it. The thing with universal credit is that if you come off it, the claim will stay open for I think it used to be 3 months. So if you have to come back at a later date, it can just be restarted. So it just doesn't, with the old benefit system, it would kind of like a cliff edge. So you'd go into work, it would stop, and then you'd have to go through that whole reclaim process. With universal credit, it's not like that at all. It just kind of goes in kind of like a status where it remains open, but just kind of in the background. So if you have to come back to us, it just restarts without having to go through that whole claim reprocess stage again, which I think maybe it's just an awareness thing about how it works.
Does anyone else have? Oh, Sarah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point about the grants and funding and how it affects universal credits. Absolutely. And we would always, if people are in universal credit, just have a chat with your work coach before kind of receiving anything, because you're absolutely right. And sometimes it depends on whether it's kind of personal financing or business financing, about how that's then kind of considered. So yeah, just have that conversation about, I would say. But I think, yeah, Sarah, you kind of got a point there.
Do we have any other questions? And again, as John said, feel free to reach out after the session if you think of anything else. And while we wait for your answers on the poll and some more questions maybe to come in, just to let you know, the next session in March, first Wednesday of March, is happening. So make sure to check out the page for the link to book the sessions. And we look forward to seeing you again there.
What is that workshop on again? Is it personal?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, so that one's about personal finance for young entrepreneurs. So how you can manage your own money and start saving and investing. So really helpful when you're starting a business to do that as soon as you can. So do sign up on our website or our Eventbrite.
And something I can share with you, Laura, is a little while ago I was asked to deliver a session to the Scouting Association about self-employment. And as part of that, it was all about that young person financing. So I've got some bits and pieces I can share with you if that'd be useful
Oh yeah,
as well.
definitely. We've
So,
got our resource hub on the website, which is also, I think, where they would find the Zoom call. Ed, is that right? Rebecca's asking where they will find.
Yep, I dropped a link on the chat. It's all on the same page where you can book the sessions. Just scroll down to the section on Digital Resource Hub. So you get the presentation slides that John went through earlier. You can rewatch the session as well and the other sessions, past sessions.
Yeah, and then John, if you send over any resources to do with personal finance, that'd be super helpful as well.
Yeah, of course, that's not the problem. Like I say, for me, it's an area that I'm really interested in, and I think it's about what more can we do as well, because there's so much happening around how we can better support young people in starting their businesses. So I think anything that I can do to help, I'm full in on it. So yeah,
amazing.
Yeah. If you don't have any more questions, I'll end the poll. And of course, thank you, John, again for such an amazing session. And yeah, if you have any questions, just feel free to let us know in the future. And we look forward to seeing you at the next session on personal finance for young entrepreneurs.
Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the time today. So.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, John.